Welcome to the Content Podcast, conversations with Silicon Valley's creatives. I'm Daniel Garcia, your host and the cultivator of Content Magazine, published by SV Creates.
Hi, this is Jessica.
Today we talk with Jessica Paz-Cedillos. She's the executive director of the School of Arts and Culture at the Mexican Heritage Plaza. Hey Jessica, how you doing? This is Daniel.
Doing well.
Great. Thank you for taking time to speak with me today, and I really appreciate what you're doing over there at the School of Arts and Culture.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I've seen you around town, and I've only had very quick, very passing conversations with you, so we don't know each other that well. But can I just tell you my first impressions of you? Is that okay?
No, yeah, absolutely.
Well, the first thing that I think of is intense. But then I was thinking about that. I don't know if that's the right one. I think more passionate. What I've seen from you in the circles that I've seen you working in is that you're a very passionate person. Do you think that's an adjective that describes you, or what is an adjective that people use to kind of describe you?
I think both. And I think it depends on the situation, right? There's definitely a lot of passion behind the work that I do. And for me, it's tied to the fact that I have a lived experience and, I'm working in the nonprofit sector. I'm an arts administrator now working for the School of Arts and Culture. And so a lot of, the work that I'm engaged in, the different circles that I run in, it comes across. And it depends on the topic, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, that's the other thing too. I want to say that there's people that are intense or have passion, but you seem to always also have kind of like a fun, joyful side mixed in with it. Like I've seen you at times where you're speaking, but even with it, there's this niceness that's also mixed with it. When I think that's really great. So
I will take it, Daniel. I will take it.
Awesome. Now, have you seen, from being a little girl, have you seen that kind of same kind of intensity and passion and throughout your life, or is it something that's kind of developed over time?
I think so, right? And my mother, right, is the one who comes to mind when we're talking about, passion and really working hard in order to get the things that you need in life. My mother was very relentless in making sure that her family was taken care of, right? That her children were doing well. Um, she is from El Salvador. She came to the United States prior to the Civil War breaking out. And she actually returned three other times for her siblings and for her mother. And so
Okay.
when I think about, my upbringing and, the environment where I grew up and where I picked up, right, part of my personality, I think of my mother.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. Well, I think that's, kind of interesting that, because I think you identify yourself as being kind of like a public servant, right?
Yes.
Would you say? Yeah. And that's kind of the work that you've been doing with Somos Mayfair and now with the School of Arts and Culture at Mexican Heritage Plaza. Is that something that your mom exposed you to, or is that something that you kind of saw how she was caring for her community, and then you translate that into kind of like nonprofit and public service?
Yeah, absolutely. My mother very early on, what was very apparent to me is she was someone not just in our household, but for our extended family and our friends, she was the go-to. So if a person had a difficult time navigating a system, my mother was more than willing to help. And, I saw that throughout my life. And when I think about how she advocated for her children to have access to programs that would help us, break the cycle of poverty, graduate high school and go on to college, she was relentless. For a single mother having raised three children in East Oakland, for all three to be college graduates, to be gainfully employed, that's not usually the statistics, right? You're
Yeah.
lucky if you get one.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, that almost brings me to tears. So that's awesome. Yeah, credit to your mom and to your whole family. That's awesome, and the community, right? I mean, you're
Yes.
surrounded by people that kind of help that out. Now, so what? So now you've been at the School of Art and Culture at Mexican Heritage Plaza for a little over a year, right? It was about March of
It
last year
yes.
that you came.
Yes.
So, what led you there from Somos Mayfair? What would you think was some of the factors that had you move from the great programs you're doing at Somos Mayfair to School of Art and Culture?
So incredibly grateful for the women in my life who have supported me in my career. I worked at Somos Mayfair for about 4 or 5 years as their director of development. And Camille Yanes Fontanilla is doing an incredible job, at Somos in the community, and she and Tamara Alvarado was my predecessor at the School of Arts and Culture. She was the founding executive director, are really good friends. The both of them ran On the Verge, which was a leadership development program for East Side leaders. And so I was very fortunate to be a part of that. And I built a close relationship with Tamara, who was my coach. When the opportunity became available to become an executive director, both women went out of their way to help coach and to help me along in the process. And it is a testament, right? I very fortunate to have worked in the community and to have women who uplifted an emerging leader, right, and really were supportive of the transition process. And I got to say, Tamara Alvarado, the reason why I am in the position, right? A lot of hard work went into it, and I had people advocating for me, and Tamara was that person, and so I'm
Yeah,
incredibly grateful to her. And listen, when I accepted the position,
yeah.
I remember telling her, I'm not gonna mess this up, right? Like I'm you're I don't want to make you look bad, right? If you're gonna go out and bat for me, I need to make sure that I'm doing the right things.
Yeah, yeah. You're not going to mess things up.
Yeah.
Now, this is it's what that must be kind of great to have people kind of kind of poach you from one organization to another organization, because you weren't necessarily looking to move on from Somos Mayfair, were you? Or
No, you're right.
yeah,
So I was not looking, and the position, right, was announced.
yeah,
And I remember having a conversation with Camille. I had a conversation with Tamara, and the both of them were very supportive.
yeah, yeah. That's awesome. So an interesting first year.
Yes. No, Daniel, the first year was fine. It's the second year.
Yeah.
The first year we were good. We're good in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
second year too, but it's definitely different.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So let's see. So then, why don't you give a quick little rundown on all the great programs and the aspects they're doing? Let's do a little bit the for School of Arts and Culture, to kind of the overview pre-COVID of some of the programs and the things that you're doing, and the number of people I'm sure you can that come through and get touched throughout the
You
year.
got it. So, the School of Arts and Culture at the Mexican Heritage Plaza, we are a cultural institution in East San Jose with a significant footprint, right? We are
Hmm.
stewards of the Mexican Heritage Plaza, which is a 6-acre facility with a 500-seat theater, a plaza, a pavilion. We have classrooms and a dance studio. Our mission is to catalyze creativity and empower community. And we have three core programs. We have our Multicultural Arts Leadership Institute, MALI, where we train leaders of color, artists of color, in order for them, to uplift their art form, to build networks, and to be successful as artists. We also have our community engagement program, where we are working with over 60 local artists and multicultural groups and community based organizations in order to activate the facility. And so, to give you a sense of who we're working with, one of our core partners is San Jose Taiko, and very fortunate that the one of the founders of San Jose Taiko is also the board chair of the School of Arts and Culture. And that's Roy Hirabayashi. And I just got to give him a shout out because
Yeah,
he's been incredible during these
he's great.
times.
Yeah,
Sangam Arts is another core partner. Los Lupeños de San Jose is a core partner. Calpulito Naleque, which is an Aztec dance group, is a core partner. And so what that means is that they are receiving the technical support from our staff in addition to access to the facility at a reduced rate. Um, and we're able to see over 70,000 people through our community engagement program. We also have our arts education program. We have after school programming for youth and also a summer camp. And most recently, we also are managing and administering a statewide arts fellowship program for arts administrators and multicultural organizations.
Yeah, that's great. Now, with it's it's the School of Arts and Culture at the Mexican Heritage Plaza, and it's a little more on the east side than of downtown,
Mhm.
considered the east side, which has a large Hispanic Latino community. But the groups that are using it, it's Taiko's there, Sangnam Arts, which is kind of focused on multiculturalism. Um, but what would you say is the general demographics and the programs of the facility there?
So it's very diverse. At the core of what we do, we are activating a cultural asset in the East Side, and we're making it accessible to our community. So, absolutely right. We are a symbol, and our programming is activating. Well, it's practicing, affirming, and celebrating our Latino heritage.
Yeah,
And we also have a multicultural arts focus, right? And so what that means is that we're working with a diverse group of people.
yeah, yeah. That's great. So now, recently, though, some of the programs, of course, have to change because of social distancing and COVID.
Mhm.
And what's some of those changes that have made, and some things that you're doing for the community out
Sure.
of the
S-
center?
So I'll start with this. Um, At the School of Arts and Culture, we have two audiences. And the first one is the Mayfair East San Jose community. So we consider them, right, our people. Our second audience is the creative sector. Um, in an annual basis, we see over 70,000 people a year. Um, when COVID hit, we knew early on that the school, that the community, that the creative sector would be impacted. And Vanessa Shi, our associate director, who is an incredible leader at the School of Arts and Culture and has been holding it down for many years, she and I both wrote an op ed to talk about how COVID-19 was impacting the local community, the creative sector, and also La Plaza. And for us, what that represented was a third of our revenue was in jeopardy, right? So if we're
Yeah,
activating the space through our market rate rentals and through our CEP program, that line item, we're like, there's no way we can count on that, right?
yeah, yeah,
We have to do the right thing. And that means we have to close our programs on site. um, we also knew, right, that this pandemic would impact our community disproportionately compared to
yeah,
other areas. And so for us, we early on started thinking about, well, what's the pivot, right? How do we continue to activate this space while meeting a community need? And
yeah,
so we lobbied very hard, right, to become a food distribution site. And that started in June. We
yeah.
On the first and third Monday of the month, we serve about 1,000 people through food distribution. Um, and each household that receives a grocery box, that's feeding a household of four. So about 48,000 people a year.
Wow. Yeah.
Um, we also
So could
lobbied.
I ask you?
Sure.
You said you had to lobby hard for it. Was it a difficult transition to? Is it a coding? Like a city code, or what was the? When you mean lobbying?
Oh, no. So we are a cultural institution, right? And
Yeah.
so when we think about what we were doing pre-COVID, we didn't do direct service, right?
Sure.
We weren't addressing food insecurity. And
Right.
so during the pandemic, right, we knew at La Plaza that two of the greatest assets that we had were the facility, right? It's a cultural institution in East San Jose.
Yeah.
People can walk to La Plaza. We have two parking lots and a prep kitchen. And then our second greatest asset is our people, right? It's
Right. The
it's our
connection. Yeah.
staff.
Yeah.
And so we knew, hey, if what we've done in the past, if it's going to change in the future because of COVID, um, we had to position ourselves and advocate with our partners, and with Second Harvest to get them to see, right, the
Yeah.
value of holding food distribution at La Plaza, because for them it was new.
Yeah.
Now, when Vanessa and I were thinking about this early on, examples that came to mind. There is a cultural institution in San Diego, and during some of the national crises that have taken place throughout the years, it was a museum who had doubled as a food distribution site or a shelter. And so for us, when we think about, right, the significant footprint we have in the Mayfair community, we were like, well, this makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Where one, it's a city-owned facility. If we're able to support it by activating it, if we're able to pay our employees to help support the efforts that are going to meet a community need, why not?
Yeah.
And I gotta say, right, we're event people. So we know our facility, we know how to move people in and out. We're
Yeah.
a central place where if we need security, we know where to pull from. If we need a permit, we know where to pull that. And
Right.
so what we were able to demonstrate on the first day when food distribution took place at La Plaza is that when it came to the logistics, our people had it nailed.
Sure. Yeah.
And in addition to that, our staff, we have a homegrown team,
Yeah.
bright and compassionate individuals. And so we brought humility to the process. And I want you to visualize this. So one of the parking lots, because we're activating both parking lots for food distributions, one had 60 music playing and the other parking lot had banda music playing, right? And so you have
Yeah.
people lining
Cool.
up in their cars, and we're being very gracious. And in addition, we're trying to entertain.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just, it all came together, very beautifully, and
Yeah.
so incredibly proud of the team.
Yeah. So when you say lobby, then it was more. I just was trying to see if like there was a lot of like red tape or the city or something, but it was more of just kind of like putting the idea out there and then moving people together, or was there a
That's right.
little? Okay, it wasn't so much a a large effort where people are like, no, you can't do that here. It was
Oh, so let me clarify. So we did have partners who played a significant role by picking up the phone and saying, "Hey, right, La Plaza is offering, their facility and their staff in order to get this up and running,"
yeah,
and it was because of them, right, that
sure,
we were able to make it happen. And a core partner who really helped was Angel Rios from the city of San Jose and Ed
yeah,
Solis. So
yeah,
major kudos to them for you know, saying, "Hey, this makes sense," right? They're a great
totally,
team, great location. Let's make this happen. And then also Second Harvest. Second Harvest, I do not envy the position that they find themselves in, especially
yeah,
when the pandemic hit. They were asked to scale up in a
yeah,
short amount of time, and they did that, right?
yeah. That's great. Yeah, that's cool. Now, recently, you've also become a testing center. That right? Is that
Yes.
yeah? So how's that going? How did that come about? What was the thinking on that?
Yeah, so again, right, we have a beautiful facility and we have a team that connects with the community in East San Jose. And so we worked, hard to position La Plaza as a testing site. We know that East San Jose is being impacted by
Yeah.
COVID-19, and Mayfair, where La Plaza is located, it's the second highest zip code with confirmed cases and deaths, right? And so
Wow.
for
Yeah.
us, it makes sense to have a permanent site in the east side where people can come and get tested. And here you have a
Yeah.
cultural gem that is well known, that we see 70,000 people a year. And so again, right, we positioned ourselves in order to become a testing site. Incredibly grateful to Gardner Health Services and to the County of Santa Clara for making that happen.
Yeah. Yeah. That's incredible. That's great. Um, So I mean, so as I've seen you say, and even with the School of Arts and Culture at the Mexican Heritage Plaza, just that arts and culture is kind of like a catalyst
Mhm.
for the community for improvement. Um, I mean, this seems like it falls in that way, but how does art necessarily fit into all these kind of programs and everything you're doing, and even to be a catalyst, what element of art do you think
Yes. No, I love
plays in that?
this. So one of the projects that we're working on currently, and incredibly grateful to Applied Materials for supporting this effort, and we're trying to get others to also help support the project, is we believe that here in San Jose, the creative sector can help meet this moment, right? We
Yeah.
we can leverage certain skills in order to develop culturally relevant messaging
Hmm.
to address uh, COVID-19. And so for us, we have our core multicultural arts partners. I'm thinking about Makla. I'm thinking
Yeah.
about Create TV, right? San Jose
Yeah.
Taiko,
Hmm.
Chopsticks Alley, Sangamark,
Hmm.
and so we've been having conversations about how do we come to the table, and position ourselves in order to show, right, the county, in order to show the community that we can leverage our studios, that we can leverage our digital expertise, that we
Yeah.
can bring culture to the forefront in order to help develop messaging that is going to get through to diverse audiences who speak different languages. And so I think that is a way, right, where arts and culture can be a catalyst for change. When I think about, all the health uh, messaging that is,
Yeah.
going out to our communities, it's a lot of paperwork, right? Well, what does it look like to develop videos that are engaging, that are in communities' language,
Yeah.
in order to deliver a message that's needed?
Yeah. I guess that's true. I mean, if you really think of the core kind of what art is, right? It's
Hmm.
expression and
That's right.
communication, right? The other thing I was just kind of curious, like it said, it's arts and culture. A lot of time people talk about what is really the separation. I mean, how do you separate a
Oh
culture
man, that
from
is
its art, right?
I
I
don't
mean,
I don't
I,
think you do. I
right?
think
I was, yeah,
yeah, I don't think you do. I think that very often both are intertwined, right? And it's such a powerful thing, right? And it's in your everyday life. Valencia, right, is learning her ABCs, is learning how to hold a pencil, right? And it's through art forms.
right, yeah, yeah. It's interesting because you think of that. If you think of culture, you think of uh, you know, folkloric, like
Mhm.
dancing and music, and all those are different, forms of art, really, that
Mhm.
really are part of the culture. I mean, I see the need that you have to call it arts and culture to kind of be, to see that, but
Mhm.
that intersection of the two are so crucial.
Mhm.
So now let's move also to during this time just all the awareness that's starting to build up of the people of color's struggle in the United
Mhm.
States, and I think it's great this time that this is coming up. What role do you see um, that you have in that kind of realm?
Sure. Well, as a cultural institution in East San Jose, if our people are majority immigrant, working class
Yeah,
Latinos, then we absolutely have a role in this conversation. And to be quiet is a problem.
right,
And so, from our perspective, it's important for us to uplift the diversity in San Jose, and it is also important to tell the truth, right? So when things are happening that are not just, as an institution with a significant footprint in East San Jose or in Mayfair, it's important for us to lead with boldness, with truth, and to leverage the relationships that we have in the community in order to push for change that is going to allow our community to thrive, right? And I think that we all have a role in that as an individual and as institutions.
yeah. What's some of the ways that you see for you, let's go personally, and then we can do institutionally or professionally.
Sure.
What's some of the ways that you are moving the needle forward and um, bringing awareness with that.
Sure. So, as an individual, right, because of the position that I hold, I enter into rooms where other people may not have access. And so, if I am being a responsible leader, what that means is that I am bringing to the forefront, the challenges that are affecting our community, and I'm unapologetic, right? We are in a time where we see, riots in the street or uprisings, right? And it's because of systemic inequities. And if we are not leading with the truth, if we are not speaking truth to power, we're enabling it. Now, I think that it is also true, right, that there is an inside outside game, and that, I have to be cognizant, right, of who I'm talking to, how I'm talking to them, right? And how and when I can push. Um, but if we're not doing that, we're a part of the problem. Um, as an institution, we are very fortunate to be tied into multiple networks, right? Through Molly, through the CAC fellowship, um, through our Si Se Puede collective partnership. There are platforms that have been developed that call for equity, right? That call for affordable housing, that call for representation, and we are publicly in support of that. And the more that you see institutions, go to bat for that type of change or that type of advocacy, right?
Yeah,
It's the more powerful
yeah,
a movement can be.
yeah. It's actually, I was just thinking, I mean, the plaza, it's definitely, it's a place, and it's providing um, opportunity for people to connect, grow, learn, develop that voice. But also, it's a really it's a platform for the voices of the community as well,
Mhm.
right? Um, Tell us a little about Si Se Puede. What's that organization and the groups that are involved in?
Sure. So Si Se Puede is a collective of 5 community-based organizations, and that is Somos Mayfair, um, Vegilution, Grail Family Services, Amigos de Guadalupe, and the School of Arts and Culture. This collective formed 5 years ago, and women of color came to the table and started talking about how do we work together, how are we not in competition with each other to address the real needs of our community? And, I got to say, I am incredibly grateful for the support of the women that are leading these organizations. Veronica Goey, the executive director of Grail Family Services, was instrumental in us becoming a testing site. She was a real advocate. And early on, when the pandemic hit, I was very honest with my colleagues and said, "Hey, just so you know, for us, this means a third of our revenue is in jeopardy, and so we are working hard to pivot in order to activate La Plaza in a different way." And all of the executive directors were supportive, and Veronica in particular went to bat for us, right? And so that is how we have come together, and it's what's needed. And the beauty of this is, you can have an outsider, whether it's a funder, whether it's a politician, right? Uh, Try to pit us against each other, but because we've spent years building relationships with each other, we pick up the phone, we text, we call each other, and so we present a united front. And
Yeah,
when we are trying to create change, real change in a community that has been disproportionately impacted by the global pandemic, which, hey, the reason why, systemic racism, right?
yeah,
You think
yeah,
about the economic divide in Silicon Valley and those
yep.
living in East San Jose. Like,
Hmm.
it's to me, it's not rocket science why the pandemic is impacting our community. And now
Right.
you have 5 agencies in East San Jose that have come together and are presenting a united front and saying, we know what our community needs. And yeah, you need to double down on us. And no, you
Yeah.
can't pit us against each other. And that is powerful. I think it's also scary, but it's powerful.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. That's good. Uh, well, that the having the scary aspect just demonstrates the power and the threat, right?
Hmm.
And is the impetus for change, hopefully. What? So then, what would you say? What's the road, the steps for inclusion and equity for the arts and culture community of San Jose? What do you see some of the important um, strongholds that need to be knocked down, or what's some of the steps that you see or
Sure.
that you're working on?
So, from our perspective, it's important to invest in the local talent in the South Bay, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, when we're thinking about how we are uplifting San Jose, how we are marketing San Jose,
Mm-hmm.
um, we have local talent here, and it's important to lead with that, right? Um, we are very fortunate to be in an area where there is a lot of diversity, and that is a strength. And so, why would we not uplift that? I think
Mm-hmm.
that you lead with that, and people will come, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I think from the school's perspective, right, the way we do that is through our Molly program. Now it's through the statewide fellowship program that we are administering, and we will continue to do that.
Yeah. What's for you? What's the most inspiring kind of thing that's happening in this current time for you?
It's the people that I work with, right? When I think about what the school had to do in order to meet this moment,
Yeah.
we were able to do it because of our team, right? I am very fortunate to stand behind a team that is committed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Homegrown, compassionate, and the reason why we're able to do what we do is we have a really good team.
Yeah.
This isn't a one man show, right?
Yeah.
It's all of us together. It's collectively we're doing this. And so I want to also call out, I am incredibly grateful to have a co-lead at the school, and that is Vanessa Shi. What
Yeah.
she has been able to do for me and for the organization, I will forever be grateful. I have not had to weather this alone. And
Yeah.
so I think kudos to her and to this team.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. What's some of the things that you do on a like personal level? I mean, I know that doing any kind of public service, advocacy, awareness, it can be very draining on a personal level. Um, so for you, what's some of the things that you do that you practice personally that kind of keep you filled up, inspired, challenged, or whatever? Pick the pick the word that you
No,
want.
I got
Keeps you going.
I got no, I got you. I mean, at first I need to sleep. That's what I need to do.
Yeah, sleep.
I need some sleep. But I think I like to, my 4-year-old, right? Part of keeping her entertained is uh maybe coloring with her, right? And so
Yeah.
we have our coloring books and we'll find some time and we'll just do that side by side. Lasts about 30-40 minutes. But
Yeah.
so that's always good. I like to read it as well, and I like to read fantasy books.
Oh, okay.
And so that will, take my mind off of things.
Yeah.
Um, and
Do you do
my
that just?
4-year-old is here right now.
Oh yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Um, do you think is reading the fantasy, is that kind of to, is it kind of like in a way like an escapism or a respite from
Okay, it
maybe,
is, but you know what's really weird right now, or it's kind of eerie, is that a lot of the fantasy books that I'm reading, I'm like, that's the shit
right?
that's happening right now,
Right? Yeah.
right? It's just
It is.
it's in a make believe world, and there's
Yeah.
magic.
It's funny, just like all the different stuff that you see, uh, for science fiction that like comes true, and it's the because those writers a lot of time they're doing a lot
Mhm.
of research, and so then they're
Mhm.
actually kind of predicting things out. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. What's some of your favorite series or fantasy books that you've read?
So I love The Lord of the Rings. And the book that I am reading right now, and I'm not remembering the title, but it's about the Tower of Babel.
Okay.
And then the different levels and like the different way society is arranged within the different levels.
Oh wow.
And
Hmm.
so that's been interesting.
Yeah. Are you really into the Lord of the Rings? Like, do you have the book that is? the book that
Oh,
explains.
not like that. No, I know no, like, I'm thinking about, Stephen Colbert. I'm not no, not like that.
Okay, yeah, I know because I know that there's like a book that has the different maps and like it's yeah,
Mhm.
great. That's cool. Um, then what are you looking forward to in the next week? Let's just say the week. What's on
Oh,
your
the next
docket?
week.
Yeah,
Okay.
so by next Thursday.
Okay, I by next Thursday, you guys listen, I'm waiting to receive my, chairs for my new dining table,
Awesome.
so that I'm looking forward to that.
That's important. That's cool. Yeah.
Um, and I'm also looking forward to listen, it's been hot and it's cool today, and so that's nice, and I'm hoping, the fires, right? And I'm hoping
Yeah.
that within the next week, we're able to gain some more control over that. A lot of people have been affected by that.
Yeah. Yeah. What during the COVID time? What has this kind of different scenario kind of taught you about yourself?
The importance of communication, right? I in a moment of crises, right? And you're seeing it play out at the national level, but I'm
Yeah.
thinking about, working at the school and with the team, right? The importance of being transparent,
Mm-hmm.
and just letting folks know where you are at, not just on a personal level, but also where the organization is at. For us, it was financially in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
So what we present to the board when it came to COVID and how it was impacting our revenue, we did the same thing for staff, right? So we walked our board through a PowerPoint presentation of here's where we're at, here's the revenue that's in jeopardy,
Yeah.
here's what we're going to do, and we had that same conversation with our staff during our staff meetings, right? I think in a moment of crises, we need to be real with our folks, and
Mm-hmm.
we also need to be able to demonstrate that we've thought through how we're going to make it out of this. And so just being very upfront with everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. So communication. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's so key. How about on a personal level with your family? How's that been during this COVID time? Because I
Oh
imagine
man.
you're pretty much working at home, right? Working from home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it again, it is communication, and I have to say, right, my husband Alex has been doing a lot of the caregiving with Valencia, and
Mm-hmm.
so I am incredibly grateful to him. He's working full time, he is working from home, but he's also doing a lot of the caregiving. And
Yeah.
so I know that that's not easy, right? That can be
Yeah.
very taxing, especially when you can't go outside,
Yeah.
and this past week it's been very smoky, right?
Yeah.
And
Hot and
we have a
smoky.
we have a 4-year-old. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I acknowledge that is a lot, and I am grateful for him because it allows me, right, to do the work that I'm doing at school. And I also have to be cognizant that I have to be able to balance that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Are you? I mean, you seem like you're a very dedicated, passionate person. So, do you find yourself kind of in that? I know, like when I had my kids were younger, I found myself when I was at work doing work that I loved to do, and I would love to do it all the time. I felt guilty that I wasn't with my kids, and then when I was time with my kids, even though I'd enjoying it, at the same time, I feel like, oh my gosh, I want to get back, or I have to get back to this. Do you find yourself kind of in that pool as a parent and a professional?
Yeah, no, I think so. So yes, and it depending on the week and what is happening, right, the intensity varies.
Yeah. Are you? Do you think like for me, I'm not. I mean, I love my kids and I love little kids, but I wasn't. That wasn't my jam. Like I love them now that they're older, and I always knew. I just wasn't much of a like an infant. Like we've have in-laws, and so they are. What do you call it? Brother-in-laws and sister-in-laws and stuff like that. And they're like, "Oh, here's our newborn. Will you hold it?" I'm like, "It's okay." But now that they're getting to be like 5 and 6, like I'm loving it. How are you? Are you more
So
kind of like
Daniel,
me?
I think I can relate with you. I think I can. And here's the thing, I think if there wasn't such a stigma, I
Right.
think we would
Yeah.
hear more of that, right?
Yeah. I think people have different personalities and different gifts. I know some people really, I mean, I see incredible people with babies and infants and elementary school kids, and like, I'm in awe. I can't
Mhm.
do it. But once they get older, like a junior high and up into the rest of the life, like, I love that. So that you're kind of that similar type of
I think so, and I think there's still a lot to be discovered.
Yeah. So, what's some of the way that the community can help with what you're doing at the School of Arts Culture at the Mexican Heritage Palace? What's some of the ways that maybe people can reach out and help?
So I think, absolutely, if you can make a donation, do so, and we will put it to good use. We are looking for volunteers for our food distribution days. And so if you are able to come and help out on the first or third Monday of the month, let us know.
Yeah.
Um, in addition, you know, it's important for us as a community to follow the county guidelines. If
Yeah.
we're going to get out of this, right? It's important for us, right, to shelter in place. If we're able to wear masks, to social distance, to get tested, right? I know that what the CDC has recently put out is a bit controversial.
Yeah.
Um, from a personal perspective, it's they're not doing the right thing, right? And so I think for us as a community locally, we need to look to our public health department, and Dr. Sarah Cody has been doing an incredible job leading. And so let's just make sure we're following the health guidelines.
Yeah. That's cool. Last thing then, do you have somewhat of a like a personal mission statement, something that you kind of have learned about yourself that is what keeps you going and your North Star, or I don't know, whatever kind of thing you do, a mission statement.
Sure. So I think, right, from my perspective, it's to be in service of others, right? And so how are we helping others in order to create a thriving society? And again, I was very fortunate to have people in my lives or in my life, right, who fought for me to be where I am today, and so paying that forward.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. Well, thank you. I really appreciate what you're doing there at the plaza, and just it's great to see you move into that position and the things that you're doing. So awesome, and thanks for taking time to talk to me.
Thank you,
Um,
Daniel.
yeah. So okay, well, hopefully we'll see you out in the public and not in a Zoom
Yeah.
sometime in the future. Yeah. Okay, well, go forth and be safe and connected.
All right.
Okay, thanks.
Hasta luego.
Hasta luego. Gracias. To find out more about the School of Art and Culture, go to their website, schoolofartsandculture.org. Thank you for listening to the Content Magazine podcast. Follow us on social media at Content Mag. Visit our website to become a member and help us to continue to tell the stories of the local creatives. This episode's music is Time Alone by Mild Monk. Follow him on Spotify and also on his Instagram at Mild Monk Music.